Richard told me this would buzz if I was going too long, and it just buzzed on me. I'm not sure what that tells about how I'm doing already. So, all right. It's great to be here with you guys. Can definitely understand where Connie and Caitlin were coming from. It's a lot of people here. I'm not really used to speaking in front of this many people. Usually speak in front of 15 to 20 people who are between the ages of 85 and 100. And so it's a little bit different dynamic. And I know I've been up here before and done stuff with this church, but I either always had Thad or Lindsay or someone else to fall back on. So hopefully I'll have God this morning to fall back on. I want to start this morning talking about that ministry that I'm doing, and that's with Pulpit Supply. This school year, I've been able to go out to a bunch of different churches and talk with them, preach to them, and it's a great experience for both the churches and the school, because we get to send out students who are pastoral ministry students or sometimes youth ministry students to preach the word and get practice that they wouldn't normally get. And in these churches, they get to have people come in and preach the word to them. And so it's a great experience. I've met a lot of cool people, been a lot of unique places, very, very unique places. And there's one church I want to talk about in particular. I went there just after New Year's this year. And these small churches, a lot of them have registers on the wall that say, what the attendance is this week or last week or what it was a year ago today, offering and so on. And this one, it said last week's attendance, which was 17 people. It said this week's attendance, which I hadn't put up yet when I walked in. And then it had the goal attendance, and the goal attendance was 50. So I walk in, I'm thinking, well, these people have a goal, they have a vision they want to get to. That's cool. Maybe last week was New Year's weekend, so there wasn't a lot of people here. Maybe that's why the numbers were low. And I get there, and church starts, and there's about 20 people. There's 20 people there, and I'm like, that's fine. They have this goal that they're reaching far for this goal. They're not quite there yet, but they have something they're shooting for. And so then communion comes around. And for those of you who know me, this won't surprise you. I'm in the front row, and I get the tray with the juice and the wafers, and so I take this mental look, and I look at how many cups of juice there are on the tray, and there's 32 cups. And so I'm thinking, these people, they have this goal. They want to get 50 people in church, but the juice that's been up there, no one's touched it, no one's changed it to how many people are at the church service. It only has 32 cups. They're not buying in to the vision that they're projecting, that they want to get to. They don't believe it's going to happen themselves. And that's what I want to talk about today is what vision do we have? Where do we want to go? And are we believing in that? Do we believe in what we're saying? And are we buying into that? In the fall, Pastor Steve talked about the Christ acrostic, and I was glad to see it was on the bulletin this morning. And under the website, it's also the purpose statement for the church. Wow, that was a lot louder than I thought it would be. I'll try not to do that anymore. The one I want to look at the most today is the reaching the world one. Maybe it's become because I've gotten into school and we've been focusing a lot on evangelism and stuff, but I think that's a huge part, and I'm really glad that's in this acrostic, is reaching the world. And how are we reaching the world? And in an ever-changing world, how do we use the change of the world to better the church rather than the church falling apart maybe because of what's changing in the world? And so first of all, before I started on talking about my spiel on change and how we need to change things in the church or adapt to culture, I want to look at things that have been constant throughout all of the years and should also be constants within the church. And if these three things aren't constants within the church, you first of all need to take a look. And if things don't change and these aren't within the church, you have my permission. I'm sure you have the three pastors' permission to run away as fast as possible, because church isn't going where you want it to go. The first one is Jesus Christ. Hebrews 13:8 says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. And I really liked Eric's song this morning, talking about safe in his arms, and how no matter what goes on and what change is going on in the culture, Christ is always there, and Christ has always been there. And the sacrifice he made for us, it's always relevant, and it's always pertinent to our lives. And so that's something that needs to be constant in our lives as well as in the life of the church. The next one is Isaiah 48, and it's the Word of God. And Isaiah 48 says, the grass withers and the flowers fall, but the Word of God stands forever. I took winter term class this January. It's a week-long class, and we had to buy 4 books for a 5-day class. So I decided that I was going to borrow the books and not actually buy them. So I borrowed one of the books from a student who took the class about 3 years ago. And the book was The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. And we got into the chapters, and we're reading, and I looked down at my book, and it's not the same as what's on the PowerPoint. So I raise my hand, and I say, Professor Sackstetter, what's going on here that I don't have the same thing that you have? And someone next to me said, no, that's what I have. And so I'm looking down, and I'm confused. And he said, well, apparently you have the wrong book. This wasn't the one that was on the reading list. I said, well, it was what was in the class before. He said, well, yeah, well, it's the revised version. They've changed a couple of the laws. I was like, well, that makes sense because I didn't actually buy the book. And he keeps going on. And I said, well, hold on. These are the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. They're the irrefutable laws, but they've been refuted. They've been changed in just 10 years that this book's been out. And he says, well, times change and expectations change and people change. And so it had to be updated. So I just thought that was kind of ironic that something that men write and that we claim to be irrefutable in a short period changes. And that's what's awesome. The Word of God never changes. And you may get arguments about the new revised standard version or the Bible being revised and changed, but it's not. The Word of God has always stood firm, and it's always the guidebook of what we want to use. I almost did it again. Let me take a drink first. The next one I'll look at is being a spiritually growing person as well as a church. Within a church, we should always be, we should always be thriving to grow spiritually and to develop in our growth with the Lord and with Jesus and our relationship with Him. In Acts 17:27, it says, God did this so that men would seek Him and perhaps reach out for Him and find Him, though He's not far from each one of us. As a Christian and as a church, we always want to be reaching out spiritually to grow and to develop ourselves within the church. We also see that outside of the church, people everywhere are looking for spiritual growth somehow. And Christ talks about how false prophets will come and they'll claim to be the one and claim to be, you can grow spiritually through me. How many people follow Oprah and think that she is, a religion? They look for their spiritual growth from Oprah or the fact that Mormonism is the fastest growing religion in the United States. The fact that someone like Jim Jones can start a cult and get so many people to go follow him. People are looking for spiritual growth. And what are we doing as a church to reach out to those people and say, this is the legitimate way, this is the right way to grow spiritually, and this is the only, way to live. And what are we doing as a church? And that goes back to the Christ acrostic and reaching out to the world. Jared told me that I had to have some sort of sports in my message this morning, and so and I wouldn't expect anything less from him or Brad. And so one of my coaches, he has all these little quirks that he says, and I know most of his quirks. I can get him. I can say something that triggers what else he'll say, and it's funny because I'll be like, watch this. I can make him say this, and he will. But one of his that he says is talks about insanity, and how insanity is a state of mind that you do the same thing over and over, and you expect different results. Whether it be like when I'm pitching, and I stop my arm right here, the ball's just going to go high. And if I just keep doing that, I can't expect the ball to drop down. I've got to follow through, or whatever the case be. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. And so I have an illustration from a movie that I want to use. The character is Phil Connors, and Phil is a weatherman in Pittsburgh. And the movie is Groundhog's Day. He hates his life. He's unhappy, and people can see that, and people realize how unhappy he is. And the things he does, he just does them over and over again and doesn't change. Well, we see in the movie that the day he hates the most is Groundhog's Day. And he keeps reliving the same day over and over. No matter what happens in the day, the next morning he wakes up and it's 6 a.m. and no one remembers anything that happened the day before, but he has the experiences he has. He remembers them, but everything started over. So let's look at this clip real quick and then we'll get back.